The M1 Ultra from NewxTool is certainly a jack of all trades, but does that mean it's a master of none? In this video, I'll be trying my best to find out. This video is sponsored by PCBWay. The jack of all trades saying is usually used as a little bit of an insult to describe someone who can do a little bit of everything, but know one thing particularly well. It's actually sort of a phrase that comes to mind when I think about myself sometimes. I can turn my hand to many different things, but I can't say I've truly mastered anything in my working life. On paper, the M1 Ultra is a crafter's dream that lets you complete many different tasks, including laser engraving, blade cutting, pen plotting, and even inkjet printing. But can it actually complete any one of these tasks as well as a dedicated machine, or have NewxTool been way too ambitious trying to cram so much into one unit? The M1 Ultra has had a huge price reduction recently, but it's still not a cheap machine, and anybody looking to buy one is no doubt weighing up the alternative option of buying individual machines to complete each task. As I said, on paper, NewxTool's M1 Ultra has many different capabilities, and even after a couple of months of using it, I still feel like I've barely scratched the surface of what it can do. The M1 Ultra plus a number of accessories were sent to me by NewxTool. I didn't buy them, but NewxTool, and anyone else for that matter, has no influence over the content of my videos, and I'll be showing everything I find, warts and all. NewxTool are known for their excellent laser engravers, of which I have two, so I assumed that this part would be handled well, and to a degree I was right. Everything on the software side is handled by NewxTool's XCS software, which is pretty good and makes running your first job very easy, even for a beginner. Just like with all software, there is a learning curve to getting to grips with it, but unlike generic software like Lightburn, with XCS there are very machine and process specific guides to help you along the way. If you still have questions, then the NewxTool website has a lot more information that goes into greater detail. Also, NewxTool's Design Find feature helps you find designs and ideas for things to make. If you do find anything that you like, then you can open it up in XCS and pretty much process it instantly on your machine. All of the many different tasks that the M1 Ultra takes on are possible by using interchangeable toolheads or modules. These simply slide into place and are then recognised by the machine and therefore the software once you've linked your device. There are no tools necessary, which is pretty great. The first time you connect to your M1 Ultra, you need to plug in a USB lead, but then after that, everything is handled through Wi-Fi. The laser engraving module that NewxTool sent me is the 10-watt version, which is a little bit of a shame as there is a 20-watt version, which I'm sure would have been a little bit more impressive. You are a little bit limited with a 10-watt laser in that cutting through materials takes longer than with a more powerful laser, as you either have to go slower or do multiple passes to achieve the same effect. The 10-watt laser is capable of cutting through thinner stuff, but like I said, it will take longer. So if you do plan on doing a lot of laser cutting, then do yourself a favour and go for the 20-watt version. There were quite a few occasions when I was laser cutting where I just wanted to put the job on my more powerful D1 Pro. But if you've never used anything more powerful and don't plan to primarily cut with the laser, then the 10-watt may be fine for you. Operationally, the laser module worked flawlessly though, and it's really good for engraving on all types of materials. One thing that does help with cutting and keeping the cut as clean as possible is the air assist pump. These are mini compressors that blow air onto the spot where the laser is cutting to keep the material cooler and blow away any soot that would otherwise settle on your workpiece and lens. NewxTool sent me their smart air assist, which you can just plug in, set to auto and forget. This is a big improvement over my D1 Pro setup where I have to manually turn the air assist pump on and off, which of course I usually forget most of the time. The big downside with any laser engraver or cutter though is the smoke that's produced. NewxTool have upped their game in this area with the M1 Ultra though, and there is both a filter and an extractor fan included in the extractor hose. If you don't have an air purifier like me, then the filter isn't enough to allow you to vent into your house, but it does go a long way to remove harmful particles before you vent the hose outside while you're using the laser. You get quite a few spare filters too, which is nice, and they are easy to change. You also receive a slat style bed for cutting, but if you don't want to mark the beautiful anodized base underneath, then I'd advise putting down a scrap sheet first to protect it. This base panel is removable if you want to work on thicker pieces, and the available riser base is a great addition that integrates really well. All you do is sit your M1 Ultra on top of the riser base, and through a series of magnets and switches, it knows when the door is open or closed, and it won't let any of the modules run while the door is open and there's a chance that you could get your hand anywhere where it might get hurt. This is a great way to ensure that there's no way you can harm yourself. The riser kit comes with a honeycomb base which you can move into different heights depending on the material that you're using. And if you want to do any rotary engraving, then it's very useful. It's also a handy place to store all of the sheet materials you end up buying. All of this is good, but my favourite feature of the laser module is the probe that sets the laser height with the press of a button. Forgetting to set the laser height is the single most frustrating mistake I make when engraving or cutting, and this feature is one that I love. If you ever find yourself with a project or something you want to make, but you don't own all of the tools or machines necessary to do everything yourself, why not try PCBWay to see if they can help? PCBWay now have many different manufacturing methods available, from 3D printing and CNC machining to injection molding and laser cutting. Check out their website from the links in the description below for a quick free quote on anything you need and enjoy a $5 discount on your first order. Now, back to the M1 Ultra. So, not surprisingly, the NewxTool M1 Ultra can laser cut and engrave well, but it's unlikely to be the main reason that you'd buy one over some of the other options that are out there. It's also not the feature that I was most excited to try. One of my many jack-of-all-trades jobs was working for one of the UK's biggest sign manufacturers, and while I was there I was always fascinated by the clever things that could be done with self-adhesive vinyl and a capable vinyl cutting machine. I don't know why I waited so long to get hold of a vinyl cutting machine, as there are actually quite a few different options out there now. The way the M1 Ultra handles vinyl cutting is via a couple of different modules that accept interchangeable blades. There are also two different sticky cutting mats that you place on the base plate and then stick your material to. The downside to this method is that the cutting mats do get less sticky the more you use them, and you will be replacing them quite regularly if you don't keep them clean. There are ways to clean the mats, but they never come back quite as sticky as when they're new, so be prepared to buy more in time if you find yourself working with very fibrous materials often. The blue mat is for things like paper or vinyl, and the pink mat is for things like felt, leather or denim. You also use a different blade for these thicker materials, which you're guided through in XCS. There are many different projects you can take on with the M1 Ultra, and I couldn't possibly list them all, but your imagination is your only limit really. As I said, even though I've had this machine for a couple of months, I feel like I've only really just dipped my toe into crafting with the M1 Ultra. However, I am putting together a separate video where I'll go into more depth on some of my favourite projects that I've been able to complete in that time, so hit subscribe if you don't want to miss out on that one. Of course, being able to cut vinyl means that I can also cut heat transferable vinyl, which has opened up a whole new other area to play with. You can transfer your designs to fabric or other materials using a household iron, but NewxTool also produce another couple of products that do this in a much more controlled way. For smaller jobs, they have the handheld mini heat press with different heat levels, but for bigger jobs, there's the Smart Press. The Smart Press has a wireless control for temperature and time, which can also be used with the mini press. Using either is very easy, and you should find the settings to use from your vinyl manufacturer. I started by just putting a single colour logo onto a t-shirt, which was all very simple to do. However, just using heat transferable vinyl is not the end of the story when it comes to customising things like clothing. You see, one of the other major benefits you get with the M1 Ultra is the inkjet printing module. Using the inkjet module and heat transferable vinyl that you can print onto, you can put whatever kind of design or image you like onto anything that the vinyl will stick to. This obviously creates so many more possibilities, and I think it's something I'm going to have a lot of fun with. It's not just thin sheets of vinyl or paper that you can print onto with the inkjet module either. You can basically print onto anything that you can draw onto, but it's better if the surface is flat and relatively smooth for better results. Although printing onto these canvas banner pieces with a file that I bought from Etsy worked really well, and I love the end result. XCS handles multiple processes on one job really well too, and you can switch out modules on the fly to create some really imaginative pieces. I was a bit concerned that replacing the ink module might mean ordering proprietary parts and waiting for delivery from the other side of the planet, but that's not the case. NewxTool have designed the ink module around a very common and easy to source HP62 tricolour unit. I've already gone through one ink cartridge, and I'm probably a good way through the second one, so before I buy another one, I'm probably going to investigate refill kits to keep the costs down. You don't have to worry about the ink drying out between jobs either, as there's a very clever magnetic cover that the machine goes and picks up when the job's done, so you don't have to remember to put it on. You do have to remember to take it off before you start printing though, which I have to admit I forgot to do more than once. It also does a pre-print test on a post-it style pad so that you can see that all the colours are ready to go before you potentially ruin your piece with a failed print. You do have to keep an eye on this though, as you don't get any kind of warning when the ink runs low. I had the ink run out while I was printing one of the letters on the canvas banner, but luckily had a spare cartridge ready to use. I'd advise having a spare ready, as then you can potentially just run the job again and maybe rescue it. Not only can you print on materials with the M1 Ultra, but you can also draw on them using a pen module too. This is great for writing on things like gift cards and labels using their single line fonts, with an added bonus that you're not just limited to the NewxTool supplied pens, but you can also use any other types of pens as long as they fit in the holder and don't stop the lid from closing. The last of the modules that come supplied with the M1 Ultra is for foil transfer and embossing. If you want to transfer different foils to any surface, you first need to tape the foil sheet over the workpiece, and then the tip pushes through and transfers the foil down onto the job. Embossing works exactly the same, you just leave the foil out. Like all of the processes, this seemed to work exactly as it should, but like many of the different things you can do with the M1 Ultra, this was the first time I'd ever tried to emboss or foil transfer onto anything. I now need to do more research to see what's actually possible with this feature. So was there anything that didn't work as it should? Well, actually, yes. As clever as it is, I found that lining material up with the snapshot preview function was a bit less accurate than NewxTool claim. The way it works is using the XCS app on your phone, you take a picture of the work area, ensuring that you get the alignment dots in frame. This image can then be used right there in the phone app, or you can send it to your PC, laptop, Mac, or whatever you're using to set your job up. In theory, using the alignment dots, XCS rejigs the image and then displays it on your screen so you can use it to line up jobs. This seems to work much better if your material is sitting right on the base of the machine, virtually on the same plane as the reference dots. The problem is, as far as I can tell, you can't cut or engrave material that's this far away from the laser module. If you raise the material up and away from the plane that the reference dots are on, then you lose the accuracy of the image. So it seems that you can use the snapshot image feature for most of the modules, but just yet maybe not the laser module. From what I can tell, this seems to be something that could be fixed with a firmware update, so hopefully NewxTool will improve this feature in the future. There is another option for lining up jobs with the laser, and it's quicker and, in my opinion, better. All you have to do is move the laser head until the pointer is in a position that you want to reference, and then you press the plus button on the front of the machine. This then places a reference mark on the corresponding coordinates on your work area in XCS, which you can use to line up your job. You can mark out different shapes if you need to, but most of the jobs I completed only needed a simple, super accurate rectangle for pinpoint accuracy. The image is nice, but personally I preferred this other method that I found much more accurate. The other thing that caught me out is that some of the modules, like the laser and inkjet ones, measure the thickness of the material before they start to process the job, and then other ones don't. This means that you can't emboss, foil transfer, or pen draw onto thicker materials, as the embossing tip or the tip of the pen will just go to the same height, which could mean burying it deep into your material. Once you know this, you can plan for it by removing the base panel and potentially using the riser base if there's still not enough room. So, what haven't I covered yet? As with most of NewxTool's laser engravers, you can also use their RA2 Rotary tool to engrave on curved surfaces. You will need the riser base to allow enough room for the RA2, but it does just simply plug into a port on the inside of the machine, which makes getting things set up quick and easy. In fact, all of the accessories that NewxTool make for the M1 Ultra connect very easily. There are a bank of ports on the back which I used for the air purifier and air assist, but there are also spares for other accessories like their fire suppression kit, which blasts CO2 at your job if it detects a flame. Unfortunately, I don't have one of these kits yet, but it might be a nice safety feature to add in the future. Once you connect any of the accessories to the M1 Ultra, it's automatically recognised and controlled. Speaking of safety, the M1 Ultra has taken things up a notch from previous machines that I've owned. Nothing will run with the lid open or the riser base door open if you have one. This ensures that there is no way for your hand or anything else delicate to touch any moving parts, and no way for laser beams to reach your eyes. Also, even though you can remotely send jobs to the M1 Ultra ready to run, you can't actually start the job without pressing the button on the front of the machine. This ensures that you don't accidentally start a job with something set up wrong, and it encourages you to stay with your machine while it's running. With the way that NewxTool have made all of the different modules so easy to swap, I could see them adding more in the future to add more capabilities. At the moment, everything you get effectively gives you 4 different machines in one, so anything else would just be a bonus. As I said, there's far too much going on with the M1 Ultra to cover in just one video. And I will be following this one up soon with something that goes a little more in depth into a particular job or two, so that I can show you how slick the actual process is. Let me know in the comments which, if any, of the jobs I've quickly shown here you'd like me to expand on. Don't forget that you'll find the best deals on the M1 Ultra and any of the NewxTool accessories from the links in the description below, so check them out if you do decide to buy one for yourself. I really love my M1 Ultra, and it feels like it's added many more new tools to my workshop without taking up the space that all the different machines would have. And there are so many more things I can do now that I couldn't before. At first glance, the M1 Ultra, particularly with all of the accessories, seems like a very expensive investment, and it is if you only plan to take advantage of one of the many features. However, if you think you might use more than one of the modules or have any interest in any of its other features, then I'm sure you'd love the NewxTool M1 Ultra as much as I do. So, a jack of all trades but master of none? Personally, I think the full version of that quote is much more applicable to the NewxTool M1 Ultra. That is, jack of all trades, master of none, though oftentimes better than master of one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.